Hi, welcome to my blog. My name is Tom Shue, and today we're going to do a Photoshop tutorial. And in this tutorial, I'm going to teach you how to swap out clouds on an image that maybe not have very interesting clouds. This is a tutorial that was requested by one of my followers on Twitter, and her name is Kaylene. I posted a tweet asking any of my followers if they had any suggestions for tutorials, and she came up with one asking, do I know of any good videos or tutorials to show you how to swap out clouds? Well, I couldn't find any ones that I could recommend, so I'll just go ahead and do it for you using Photoshop. Okay, there's a few ways you can do it. There's always 10 ways to do the same thing inside Photoshop, so I'm going to show you a few ways to do it using just a Photoshop interface, and then I'm going to show you how to do it quickly with a plugin. I don't recommend that you use plugins until you already know how to do it in Photoshop, because the plugins could really be a crutch for you and limit your creativity inside of post-working or creating unique images. So you can see that I'm working inside Mini Bridge, and Mini Bridge can be found if you click on Window and you go to Extensions and you click on Mini Bridge. It will launch the Mini Bridge for you. The benefit of working in Mini Bridge is there are several. First of all, the files are conveniently close, and you don't have to go through and dig through your file system in your operating system. And when you bring images in, you don't have to create a bunch of extra layers or convert things to smart objects, because it does it for you. This is what I mean. Let's look in this folder and let's find some interesting clouds that we might want to use to swap out, like maybe something like this. So if we were just to double click, it'll bring it in on a new document, and there's a few ways you can bring this over. You can hit Control A, and that's Command A on a Mac, and hit Control or Command C to copy, and come over to your other layer or other document and hit Command or Control V as in victory, and it will lower that to load that to a new layer. That took a little bit of time, but the problem is when you work with a JPEG or work with a raw image or a TIFF or whatever you're working with, then you downsize it up or down with the transform tool. It throws pixels away. So watch what happens if we hit Control T, or that's Command T on a Mac, and we say we resize this image, we hit enter. It is now thrown away half or 3/4 of the file. We hit Control T again and we bring it out, and you can see that it's all pixelated. You see that? It's because it's downsampled that image. So if we hit enter, the clouds just aren't as sharp as they were when we brought them in. Let's go ahead and delete that. I'm not saying you're always going to shrink your objects you're trying to work with really small. However, if you do resize them to get them to fit, and you have to resize them again because it didn't work, then you're going to lose information. Instead of having to deal with all these layers and new documents, what you can do is just drag from Mini Bridge onto your document. It creates a new layer. It brings in the object as a smart object, so when we hold our shift key to constrain it and we drag it to resize, you'll see that it doesn't get pixelated when we go up or down. Even if we hit enter right here, now we're going to hit Control or Command T again, and we downsize, you'll see that it didn't get all stair-stepped or pixelated, because a smart object can be resized infinitely up or down as long as you don't go larger than the size of the object was originally. It cannot up-res images, but it can let you size them up and down. Okay, so that's enough on smart objects. That's a different tutorial. So what we could do here, there's lots of options. See, we could change the opacity, and back in the day, what people would do is just go in with the eraser tool and try to erase that layer and just reveal the mountains underneath. That's not the way it works anymore. Everything's done with selections and masks. So what we're going to do is we're going to try to make a selection. We're not going to try, we are going to make a selection of this area right here, of this cloud area against this mountain ridge and this ground here. You can see there's some small stuff, some trees and another set of clouds down there. However, we're going to make short work of this. Okay, so if we're at the move tool and we want to go to the quick selection tool, we can, it lives next to the magic wand tool. You can hit the W key for a shortcut. We'll grab this quick selection tool and you'll notice that there's a plus and minus sign. You can access this plus or minus sign, and this is add to the selection, and this is take away or subtract from the selection. You can, the shift key represents plus, and the alt key, which is option on the Mac, represents minus. So when you're over here and you have your cursor and it's a plus sign, if you hit the alt key, it will give you a minus sign and it will deselect that. Okay, and if you hit the shift key, it will give you the plus sign. So what we'll do is we'll use our hand tool, that's the space bar, and we'll just start up here with our plus, and we're going to be adding to our selection. We'll go through and we'll just try to do the best we can. And let's see what our radius is. We want it more of a hard brush. And if you hold down the control and alt key, and that's command and option on the Mac, you can move left to right to resize your brush, or up and down to change the hardness of the edge. Not the opacity, the hardness. Okay, so we're going to resize this brush down a little bit, and we're adding to the selection. Let's come down here, and it looks like that we've selected too much because we are on the cloud layer. We need to be on the background layer. So let's hit Control D to get rid of that, and we're going to duplicate this layer. We're going to hit Control J, and that's Command J on a Mac, and now we're working on our background layer. So if you're trying to make a selection, it's not grabbing anything just like it did, that means you're not in an area where there's pixels to be selected. Okay, so now we're going to go back in and we're going to grab our selection again, and this time it'll find the edge right against that mountain ridge. And you can see closely down here at the bottom, we're going to hit the Z key to zoom in and the space bar to move the image around. You can see that it did a pretty good job on the selection. We'll hit the move tool. However, there's some trees and stuff in here that we need to make sure that this stuff crops, and we don't want it to eat into this mountain ridge. You know, we don't want a halo around our selection. You can see it missed here. So how we'll deal with this is we'll go in here and we'll, with that same tool selected, the quick selection tool, we'll resize it. We're going to click on Refine Edge. With this selected, let's resize this brush. There's a brush inside there, right here. It's called the Refine Radius tool. What this allows you to do is paint in and refine the selection. So for edge detection, we're going to click on Smart Radius just to start. And with that tool selected, we'll just paint over our selection, and it will refine it for us. It will tighten the selection up. So what we can do, if we want to shift the edge, we can move it down or away to tighten it so we don't get a halo. Okay, we can change how this radius actually bends around objects. Okay, we can soften our selection. We can increase the contrast on our selection, and we can feather our selection if we would like. Okay, so we're going to move our edge back over to this area. Maybe get it closer to 0. Bring our feathering off. Alright, and we'll see where this radius brings us. If you want to know what the tool actually is going to do, we'll come over to these trees, and if we move this radius tool all the way on this side, you'll see exactly what this is going to do. You see it brought it up closer to the tree, and if you want to see what contrast is going to do, we move it far to one side, and it will tell if we're way off, then we're going the wrong direction. So we'll shift our edge just a little bit, a baby adjustment, and you see that now this is a better selection. So let's go in here and let's paint around this selection and see if we can clean it up anymore. Okay, that looks pretty clean. So let's refine this edge just a little bit more. I want to see if it'll get tighter on the tree. That's too much. And this is just a trial and error game. That's pretty close. We can work with this, and we can go back in and paint on the mask to reveal this edge. So let's paint in this selection here. See if we can tighten it up around this mountain edge. Maybe we need to shift the edge just a little bit more. This is going to create a halo if you don't let it dig into the mountain just a little bit better than what it's doing. Just maybe drop the smoothing off. Let's shift this edge just want to get it to be tighter. We need to go the other way. There we go. And if we eat that tree up, that's fine. Okay, this looks like a pretty good selection. So we'll grab our hand tool. Oop, I don't want to do that as a selection. Control Z. And that's Command Z on the Mac. Let me zoom out and let's look at this selection. This looks pretty good. Okay, so we're going to select the OK. It's going to give us our selection. Now what we can do is we can make that selection, we can save the selection first of all. It took us time to create it. Let's save it so we don't lose it. So we'll go to selection, we're going to say save selection, and we'll call it sky cut. So this will be our sky cutaway. Now if we hit Control D, we can always load that selection at any time by clicking load selection. It's asking us which one we want to do. We want to load the sky cut, and then there it is. So we don't ever have to worry about losing it. So now what do we want to do with this? Well, with this background layer selected, we can hit the Alt key, and the Alt key is an option on the Mac, and create a layer mask. Okay, so we can see that if we bring this cloud layer below this layer mask, you can see that now the clouds are actually coming through where the other clouds were before, because the black is blocking the sky. Okay, I'll show you what this mask is doing. Let's hide this layer. Let's hide this layer. This black is now hiding our sky. Okay, there's the sky from the bottom layer, and since the cloud selection is below it, we've now changed the clouds on our image. So I want to get out of here. Let's go to the zoom tool and hit the Alt, which is the option, and zoom out. And you can see that we've quickly changed the clouds on our image. But when you zoom in, it looks really jaggedy. Okay, so we can change that selection with the Refine Edge tool and a paintbrush. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll go back into this layer mask area, and we'll type selection, load selection, and we'll grab that same selection we had, which was the sky cutaway. And instead of this time being on the let me zoom out so show you what we're going to do, is we're going to invert the selection. So we're going to select everything but the sky, and we're going to hit Control Shift I, and that's Command Shift I on the Mac. And with this selected, now we're on the bottom half in the white. So we're going to refine the edge again. So we're going to zoom in, and we're going to smooth it. We're going to feather it so it's not so jaggedy. So we'll go back to this Refine Edge tool, and let's smoothen it. So I'm going to zoom in. Let me cancel real quick. My interface gets a little bit dodgy when I have a lot of tools running. So we're going to hit Refine Edge again, and we're going to smooth it a little bit and feather it a little bit. Okay, so you see it's a lot smoother now. Okay, so we're going to select OK, and now we're going to go with our white paintbrush tool, and we're going to paint inside this mask right along that edge. So we're going to grab our brush tool, and since it's in black, we need to hit the X key to swatch it. And when we paint, we don't have to worry about painting anywhere, because we'll just be painting on the mask, and we'll be painting inside the selection. So now when we do this, let's go back and refine edge again on the selection tool. So we go back to our quick selection, refine edge, and I'm just going to shift the edge further away so you can see exactly what we're trying to do here. Let me shift it the other way. Okay, so now watch what happens. So you can see that the edge is shifted and it's not such a jagged edge as before, but I'm going to paint this one as well. So we're going to click OK, and we're going to be painting in white on our mask, and watch what happens. Oh, that's the selection. We want to be in the brush tool. Okay, with the brush tool with white, watch what happens when I paint. It's going to bring back the original mountain and the edge of the sky, okay, where it was. So that's going to create a halo. We're going to hit Control D to deselect. You see the halo? This was the old sky underneath that mask. So let's go back into our selection one more time. So we're going to go select, and we're going to load selection. And which selection is? We're going to the sky cutaway selection. Okay, we're going to refine that edge. Okay, well, first of all, we need to fix our mess up when we just painted. So we need to go back on the other side. So we need to invert that selection. I'll show you what that looks like. If you hold down the Control key and the minus key, and that's the Command key on the Mac, you'll zoom your interface in and out. Plus will make it bigger, minus will make it smaller. So we're going to hit Control Shift I, and we've inverted it. And now we're going to paint. Control Shift I want to paint on the other side again. So we're going to paint in black this time. We're going to switch X, and we're going to paint back down to our line and get rid of that halo that we created. So we're painting in black. And make this brush bigger. It doesn't matter if we paint anywhere. It's only going to paint on that sky half. So flip-flopping your selection helps you take control of that haloed line. Okay, so let's zoom back in. Let's Control D and zoom back in. So you can see the halo's gone, but we've got that jaggedy line again. You see, it looks like it's been cut out with scissors because it was too sharp of a selection. We need it to be smoother. So let's load the selection again. Selection, load selection, and we're going to get that cutaway, and we're going to refine the edge. Well, to refine the edge, we got to go to click selection tool, refine the edge, and let's smooth it just a hair. Just smooth it, and we're going to feather it just a hair. Alright, and now you can see it's opening up some of that area, so we need to shift the edge down just a hair. I think it was that way. We'll bring it in. Okay, that looks pretty good. So we'll select OK. I'm going to zoom out and see, or zoom in so I can see which side I'm on. So I want to flip it. It's Control Shift I or Command Shift I on the Mac. And we'll go back in and paint on that edge in white. So we'll flip our selection. We'll click on the mask and we'll just paint in white around that. Control Z. To back that off, we need to go into the paintbrush tool, and we'll paint just on that edge in white, and it will soften our selection. We'll hit Control D, and there you have it. Let's zoom in just a hair to see what we've done. And now it's not that sharp edge as it was before. It's a softer transfer. This is the long way to do this. I'll show you how to do it in the plugin. So let's close all this out. Let me show you the final result. So there we have the image. This is what it looked like before, and this is what it looks like after. So we'll put on our clouds, and then there's the mask that we created. So it kind of looks pretty cool. So let's get rid of this real quick. Delete and delete. Okay. So we'll just do this way, a quicker way you can drag this off. You doesn't even have to be selected. Control deselect. With the move tool, if you hold down the shift and drag it over, that will drag it in. We're not going to work with a smart object. So we'll bring this back up and dock it just in case I need to get that again. So we're going to Command T or Control T on Windows. We're going to resize these clouds just so they fit. And this is the short way with a plugin from I1 So now that we have this selected, we're going to duplicate this layer, which is Command on a Mac, Control on Windows, J. Okay. So now that we have it selected, we need to bring this underneath because we're going to create the mask with this layer. So we're going to load this. If we go to Windows, Extensions, and go to On One, it'll give us all of the On One software that I have on here. We're going to go to Perfect Mask 5. We'll double click on this, and it will load that Perfect Mask software. I'm going to have to pause it to resize it to fit the video. I'll let you. It does what it does is it loads up and it reads the image. It prepares the image. It checks all the image for segments and stuff like this. And after this is all loaded, then you're going to grab a tool. So I'm going to resize this interface as soon as it does this preparing the image so you can see everything what goes on. Pausing now. Okay, so here we are. We're inside Perfect Mask, which is a plug-in set up by On One, and it's great. So for masking, this thing makes so short work of it. So this is a drop brush tool. All you have to do is go in here and just paint inside the interface, and guess what it does? It creates the mask for you. All of that edge detection, all of that stuff we did with refining edges and stuff like that, it's gone. It's that quick. We can see that it didn't pick up some of these clouds, so we just got to go in there and paint onto those clouds and tell it, hey, we want this to go away. Okay. And if you have a sky with no clouds, it won't even touch those clouds. So there's the mask. It's all done. Let's click Apply and go back into Photoshop. And there you have it. That's pretty fast. Let's zoom in and see how clean the selection is on that. Looks about the same type of selection that we did with all that work. Now you see that it missed a spot there, and it missed a spot on these trees. This is where knowing how to use your tools will save you. Let's fix it real quick. So we come here and we look at the mask. If you hold down this backslash key, it will show you the mask. However, if you control click on the mask, and that's command click on an apple, guess what? It's going to load a selection. And it's going to load the selection that the mask was made by this plugin. However, you see that this plugin made the selection of the bottom half. We want to invert that selection. So we're going to hit Control Shift I, and that's Command Shift I on a Mac, and we've inverted this selection. Okay? So now we can save this selection. Select, save selection. We'll just call this On One, so we know which one it was, because we've created one prior. Okay? So now we need to go in and we need to refine the edge, or we could just paint that edge. Either way, we'll grab our quick selection tool and we can just go like this. You see that? It's gone. Now we can come over here with that refined edge, remember, and we can grab our edge detection and our edge refine tool, okay, and we can just paint right here around these trees, and it cleans that selection up. Let's zoom in so you can see that it cleaned that selection up. Okay, so now that we have that selection, we just have to go in and paint on that mask. So we'll select OK, and now we need to paint in black, right, to get these clouds to show through. So we'll, with that selection the way it is, we're going to grab our brush tool with black. We're going to hit the X key to invert it to black. We're going to resize our brush, and we're just going to paint on that edge selection, and we're painting around those trees. And you know, we have to shift the edge like we did before to get rid of that halo. So I mean, but this is a greater starting point than we had doing it by ourselves, because it was just one click and a drag. So let's go ahead and refine the edge one more time. Go back to our quick selection tool, click refine edge. Let's just shift it. Make sure it's going the right way. So it shifted down. Shift it down just a little bit more, and let's feather it just a hair. Okay, maybe that's a little too much. Let's increase the contrast so it's not so loose. Okay, we click OK, and now we can't paint anywhere. We'll just go right here on this edge and watch what happens. Oh, Control Z, got to go in the paintbrush again. So we're painting in black, and you can see we could just clean up that whole halo that was created by the loose selection. Okay, we just go in and paint, and if we need to get that, we can just continue with the mask. Let's get rid of that sky halo. Let's go back over to this edge. I'm sorry this is such a long tutorial. It seems like every tutorial I do anymore is like longer and longer. I just want to make sure that you guys know exactly what's happening and why and how, so that you don't have to struggle the way I did trying to learn this stuff. Because, you know, it can take forever to figure this stuff out. And, you know, obviously that I've went in and changed that selection, and maybe it's too hard. Let's hit Control D to deselect. It looks pretty good to me. There's no halo, and there's a soft selection. It's not, doesn't look like it's cut out. We missed some there, but you get the idea. You know how to fix it. Let's zoom out and look at this final image, and you can see we got there a lot faster with the On1 plugin, even though we had to make some changes. And this is a tough scene. We got a lot of transitions. There's one last way that I would love to show you, and that's with color range of making a selection. Let's just do it. It's already a long enough video. So let's just go ahead and delete this layer, and we'll just leave our sky there so we won't have to start over. Another fast way you can make a selection is with color range. Okay, and this isn't something that people use a lot. So if you go to image, oh no, it's select color range, you'll see that it's going to give us a range to select from, and we want to load it as a selection, and we want to do sampled colors. And if you click here, it shows you where the selection is. And you remember how I said if you hold the shift key, that adds, and the alt key subtracts? So we'll start here in the blue, and we'll hold the shift key down, and we'll continue to add selections. And we're not going to select those mountains, and we're just going to click these ranges that have the blues in them, and these clouds, and we'll just keep clicking on the clouds till they're all in there. And this is going to make a selection just like we did before. Okay, so we click OK, and it's going to give us a selection. We're going to hit Control Shift I to invert it. Okay, and now we can make a mask. Let's duplicate this layer, Control J. Okay, so now we have this mask. Oh, we got a Control Z because we were inverted. Control Shift I to invert the selection, and now we're going to hit Control J, and that's going to cut away the sky altogether. Let's bring these clouds underneath that sky, and there you have it. How fast was that? Look how clean this selection was. And this is how On1 works with their selection, is with color range. Okay, so that's the On1 plugin done again. So if we wanted to fix these areas, what do? Go to our quick selection tool based on that selection we did, and refine it. But you need to save the selection and load it to refine it. Okay, so there you have it. How do you change clouds inside Photoshop? Real easy. You make a selection, you refine the edge, and you use a mask. There's many ways to do things in Photoshop. I want to thank you all for visiting my blog today, and I hope that I see you soon. So again, till next time, we'll see you soon.